So there's always a lot of talk about like when it comes to AI, right? Especially with software engineering. I know we've been using AI. Like a lot of us have. I mean, obviously, when it comes to coding, we're using ChatGPT, we're using GitHub's Copilot, and all these things. And I have a take on whether ChatGPT is going to replace programmers. I don't think it's like as much as what people are saying, but it's definitely something that a lot of people are asking. So let's look at this Lex Friedman clip where Chris Landers asked about whether ChatGPT will replace programmers.
I have to ask you about the one of the interesting developments with large language models is that they're able to generate code recently really well.
Yes.
And honestly, if you are a programmer, it's been really, really good. It's been really helpful. I mean, I think one of the biggest issues I think for a software engineer, for a developer, or coder, or whatever, is memorization. I think that's one of the because a good programmer has to kind of still be creative and understand how do you put all these pieces together. I think what ChatGPT has been good in is like giving us sort of like the code that we need that maybe we forgot or figure out how to use, and it could spit out all this code that, oh my god, whereas you were using Stack Overflow, it's like, oh my god, what was I doing before? I could just go straight to ChatGPT. I don't have to like search through all these like a million search results. So that's where it's been amazing.
Agree that maybe I don't know if you understand, but I struggle to understand because it forces me to ask questions about the nature of programming, of the nature of thought, because the language models are able to predict the kind of code I was about to write so well.
Yep.
That it makes me wonder like how unique my brain is and where the valuable ideas actually come from. Like how much do I contribute in terms of
I mean, I would beg to differ that the fact that ChatGPT or the Copilot can predict what you're going to write, I wouldn't attribute that to creativity, because I think it just algorithmically it can predict based on the context of the code, right? Like okay, we're gonna like an async function await, kind of knows how to continue that. Like I'm definitely not taking anything away from it. It's pretty amazing. I think that's where it's separate. I don't know if that you can call that creativity or more of technical prowess.
ingenuity, innovation to code I write or design and that kind of stuff. When you stand on the shoulders of giants, are you really doing anything? And what LLMs are helping you do is they help you stand on the shoulders of giants when you program. There's mistakes, they're interesting that you learn from, but it would love to get your opinion first, high level, of what you think about this impact of large language models when they do program synthesis, when they generate code.
And this is a good point. Before we even get to the answer or the opinion, whether it's going to replace us or not, right? That's one question. Another question is, it does make you wonder, like, it does, and I think this is not for just software, it's for anything. It makes you wonder it makes you re-question your value as a coder. Like, well, you thought that, like, wow, me being able to put all this code together, like, wow, like that's amazing, like I'm so important and so cool that I could write all this code. And most people can't. And now here's this thing that could just spit out the code. So it's like, holy crap, is writing the code what makes me valuable? Like what and it makes you question what makes me, valuable as in terms of like economically or as in terms of coding, right? It does make you, so that's like another question. And all these questions, they don't just apply to coding. They apply to every career, to every single thing out there. Because AI is going to be able to do is able to do surgeries. It probably replace doctors as well, right? So it's like even these high like level fields, I think everyone is questioning. So it's just, again, like as a coder though, it's like, one, is will it replace us? Two, what makes me valuable?
Also, I don't know where it all goes.
Yeah.
I'm an optimist, and I'm a human optimist, right? I think that things I've seen are that a lot of the LLMs are really good at crushing leak code projects, and they can reverse the linked list like crazy. Well, it turns out there's a lot of instances of that on the internet, and it's a pretty stock thing. And so if you want to see standard questions answered, LLMs can memorize all the answers, and that can be amazing. And also they do generalize out from that, and so there's good work on that. But I think that if you, in my experience, building something like you talk about Mojo, or you talk about these things, or you talk about building an applied solution to a problem, it's also about working with people. It's about understanding the problem. What is the product that you want to build? What are the use case? What are the customers? You can't just go survey all the customers, because they'll tell you that they want a faster horse.
Mhm.
Maybe they need a car, right? And so a lot of it comes into, I don't feel like we have to compete with LLMs. I think they'll help automate a ton of the mechanical stuff out of the way. And just like, I think we all try to scale through delegation and things like this, delegating rote things to an LLM, I think, is an extremely valuable and approach that will help us all scale and be more productive.
But I think it's
That is a really good point. So let's see what Lex is going to say. But that's my take. Is that I like the way he said delegating rote things to an LLM or to an AI. That's amazing for all of us. Like for a developer, that's incredible, right? Like instead of us having to write this code, we can get it to do the code. To what extent though will it, like, where does, like, I don't know, I feel like it's a fine line between creativity, right? Like we like to say that, the creative part of coding, or the part of is putting it all together, right? Like how do you, and I agree, like I don't know if you could, like, yes, I don't know, maybe we need to do some tests on this and search this up, but can you just tell AI, hey, build me this app? You know what I mean? And but take into account all of these things. And I know it can. I really don't know, but I do think that you can't, like, in one sense, I feel like AI is going to empower the professional, not so much replace the professional. Because let's say AI starts to be able to, which it already can do, is do a surgery or answer questions, medical questions, do stuff with accounting. I mean, unless someone creates an app that is more for the non-user, I mean, will, let's say, like an accountant be able to talk to ChatGPT or some AI and get it to code something? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, can it fully create something without you understanding? Or if it can do design? I mean, it's a tough question. My point that I want to say is that, you need the professional to be able to guide this thing, right? Can I just tell AI, hey, perform this surgery for me? Meanwhile, I know nothing medically. I know nothing about the medical field. I know nothing about all of the issues, right? Can a doctor just say, hey, create an app for me? I don't really understand anything about apps. Or let's kind of like put this code together and I don't really know what to do. So my point is that I do think that the professional is needed for the thing that I'll tell AI to do. I wouldn't want an accountant talking to AI about design, or a doctor talking to AI about tech. So I think it empowers, although there is a fine line. We may create these LLMs or these AIs where it can kind of serve the non-professional. So that's something to look out for.
it's a fascinating companion.
But I'd say I don't think that means that we're going to be done with coding.
Sure, sure. But there's power in it as a companion. And
Yeah, absolutely.
so from there, I would love to zoom in onto Mojo a little bit.
And that's a good question. Like, are we going to replace coding? It's just the coding part itself. Is it fully going to go away? Like, can AI fully do it? He's saying, I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, again, it's not about replacing, but will it fully be able to do? It may be, like, I mean, if Copilot can just spit out stuff, we may get to the point where we could just say, hey, write this function for me that does this. Add the state here. I mean, I don't see why not.
Do you think about that? Do you think about LLMs generating Mojo code and helping sort of, like, when you design a new programming language, it almost seems like, man, it would be nice to sort of almost as a way to learn how I'm supposed to use this thing, for them to be trained on some of the Mojo code.
So I do lead an AI company, so maybe there will be a Mojo LLM at some point. But if your question is like, how do we make a language to be suitable for LLMs?
Yeah,
I think that the cool thing about LLMs is you don't have to, right? And so if you look at what is English or any of these other terrible languages that we as humans.
I think they're getting into writing something specific for LLMs, which may not be needed. I agree. I think you want LLM to serve what languages are there. But I think the question that is missed in a lot of these conversations is that, or the part that's missed is that our, it feels like AI somewhat takes the joy. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It takes some of the joy out of the thing because, right, you have managers, right? Managers tend to be like, okay, I don't know how this works. I just kind of know how to get you to do what you need to do, get you to kind of manage everything, right? And there's a lot of us, especially like people who are very technical and creative and artistic, don't necessarily enjoy managing. We actually like to do the skill. Like someone likes to just take the wood, carve it, sand it, feel it, like someone gets the joy out of that. I mean, we don't like, good thing physically, we don't have AI that's really doing, I mean, I guess we do. Tesla's using, robots and things like that. But my point is when it comes to like the white collar, skills or what they call knowledge working, there's some joy out of that, right? Like I don't want to be a manager. Let's say someone wants to code. So in one sense, I love like using CSS or putting together a React application using Next.js and putting this web apps together, right? It's kind of like sanding the wood and or like painting, right? So it's like AI comes now. Imagine if you love art or you love painting, and now it's like you can get AI to paint for you or to paint aspects of it. We're not there yet, but we are there digitally. Like that can be done digitally. I don't know, like the feeling of it just saying, of you telling it, hey, put this, draw this face. It's not as fun as you drawing the face. It's not as fun as like me putting together this component, getting it to work. Yes, I love the aspect of making it easier, but full on replacement, I think I'm just talking for the person themselves, like him or herself. It takes some of the joy away. And I think that's something to look at. How are we going to navigate our way around, sort of enjoying the work that we do while AI is kind of like there. So, again, as of now, I'm using it as a companion, right? So it's fine. Like I'm like, oh wow, you gave me this nice code. It's great. Thank you, friend. And I'm putting this function, I'm putting it in, I'm plugging it, but I'm still sort of doing a lot of the hard work, not the hard work, but I'm still getting the little joy out of it, right? So that's the part that to me, if you really enjoyed coding, that's a good question.
With on a continuous basis. They're never designed for machines, and yet they're the intermediate representation. They're the exchange format that we humans use to get stuff done, right? Programming languages, they're an intermediate representation between the human and the computer, or the human and the compiler, roughly, right? And so I think the LLMs will have no problem learning whatever keyword we pick.
Maybe the fire emoji is gonna.
Oh, maybe that's going to break it. It doesn't tokenize.
No, the reverse of that, it will actually.
Compilers are very particular, and so compilers run fast and they're very efficient, and LLMs are currently very expensive. There's on-device LLMs and there's other things going on, and so maybe there's an answer there. I think that one of the things that I haven't seen enough of is that, so LLMs to me are amazing when you tap into the creative potential of the hallucinations, right? And so if you're doing creative brainstorming or creative writing or things like that, the hallucinations work in your favor. If you're writing code that has to be correct because you're going to ship it in production, then maybe that's not actually a feature.
Right.
And so I think that there has been research and there has been work on building algebraic reasoning systems and kind of like figuring out.
I've definitely seen that a lot. I've definitely seen where I'm talking to the AI to put code together, and it's like, I'm like, dude, you're not here. Like, what are you like? This is not what I'm talking about. So I do find it's not perfect, and it does hallucinate with coding, and you a lot of times I have to really refine it or guide it or take pieces of it. But I do think if you're a good programmer, you can use it to your benefit for sure. And I think that's what it is. I think in the end, it's definitely valuable. I don't think it's going to replace the coder right now. I don't think, maybe let's say 5 years, 10 years, we can revisit these questions. But again, I don't think anything is really going to be replacing. Although I do think it may allow for less workforce. That's a different question. I don't know if, I don't see like replacement, but like, can you do more with less people? That's another question. Like, do you need a team of 100? Whereas now with AI, you might need a team. You could get away with a team of 20. Let's say, for example, or vice versa. Or if you're a team of 20, can you get away with a team of 5? Maybe. I think that is definitely a different question to have. So, those are my thoughts on